This podcast is brought to you by Southern Pro Landscaping and Design. These guys are huge supporters of mine. I love having them on all these podcasts that they're sponsoring. If you guys have any landscaping needs, whether that's just general landscaping work, design, French drains, fire pits, flagstone walkways, if you have anything like that you're looking for, go check them out. Give them a call, 903-445-7106, or just find them on Facebook, Southern Pro Landscaping and Design. Let's get this thing started.
Welcome to another Paris, Texas, a podcast. This is a podcast where you get to listen to people's stories, people that have either influenced or lived in the city of Paris, Texas. I love hearing their stories, and I can't wait for you to hear the next guest. All right, guys, here we go again. I have a fun guest for you guys today. Jason Smith, what is up?
What's up, Broadway? How you doing?
I'm good. So if someone were to know, if they were trying to put a face with a name, where would they know you from right now?
They would probably know me from two places. Most likely the school. I'm a band director out at North Lamar High School.
Okay.
And then the other thing is I play a ton of golf. Everybody knows me as a big golf fanatic.
I even know that about you. Okay, so we're going to jump all the way to the beginning. Where are you from? Where were you born?
I was born here in Paris, Texas.
Really?
Born at McChristian Hospital. I still call it McChristian Hospital.
Yeah, because it's always going to be that to you.
Yeah, that was to me. That's where I was born. Born and raised here. Grew up here 18 years.
Wow.
Grew up, lived at a house out by Mount Olive Baptist Church on Pine Mill
Really?
Road. Yeah.
Really?
And
So did you go to the same school?
Went to North Lamar. All K through 12.
K through 12.
Missed 4 days of school the whole time.
No way.
4 days of school is all I ever missed, K
I'm
through 12.
so shocked at people that make it all the way through, because they give a plaque at the end, and
Yeah.
I think someone in my class got a plaque for making it all the way through without missing a day.
Yeah, I didn't miss a
4
day.
days.
4 days from K through 12. I only missed 4 days of school.
Wow. Now, did you play band? Was that
Yeah.
was that your thing?
Yeah, it became my thing. I think Rhonda Morris, who was a band director here in Paris, she was my middle school band director. I had an older sister and she was in band, and so I went ahead and tried out for band, and she gave me a couple of choices of instruments that she thought I'd be good at, and I picked one. I picked trombone.
Trombone?
She thought I'd be good at it, and it just kind of started snowballing from there.
Did you do anything else? Any other?
Yeah, I did everything. I was involved with I did drama. I was a real big techie in drama, doing lights and sound and stuff for drama all the way through. And I was huge into UIL academics, math and science, especially in computers. We also had a thing called OM, Odyssey of the Mind. We did a lot of it was a problem solving competition type things.
Awesome.
And so
It seems like it'd be up your alley.
Yeah, nerdy stuff, real nerdy.
Did you play golf in school?
No, well, that's always the big question. There was a gentleman, his name was Jesse James.
Nuh-uh.
Yeah, no lie. He was like, I always swore, I was like, okay, this has to be the real Jesse James, because he went to church with us. I grew up going to church at College Church of Christ over there by the junior college.
I know exactly, yeah.
And he was a gentleman named Jesse James, and him and his buddies, they always sat around and talked about golf at church. And I was like the little kid that hung out with the old guys.
Yeah.
And, back then, if you were, 50 years old, 60 years old, you were way old, because I was 7, 8 years old at the time. And Jesse James one day brought a 3-iron to a church that he had cut off and measured just for me, and brought me about 3 golf balls. And I was probably 7, 8 years old, and I started hitting golf balls.
Wow.
We had a big yard in front of the house, and I put tin cans down in the yard. Our front yard was probably about 100 yards long. And I just went out there.
Made your own course.
Yeah, and I did that up. I played golf, and there was also Jimmy Adams had a driving range out by the country club on 195. My parents would take me out there, and I'd get some lessons, and I did that up until I started playing band. And once I started playing band, trombone really kind of consumed me.
Awesome.
And when I got my first paycheck after I got out of college, I from North Lamar, I graduated. I went to Oklahoma City University up in Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
And when I graduated from college and I got my first paycheck, I went and bought a set of golf clubs and started playing golf again.
Wow. So did you play trombone all the way through high school?
Yeah.
Did you try? Did you experiment any other?
Oh, I played like everything. I mean, about my 8th grade year, I started playing euphonium because we needed some euphonium players in band, and I was a really good trombone player, and going from trombone to euphonium or baritone, whatever people want to call it, is real easy. It's real easy. I did both of those at all regions, as a matter of fact, my 8th grade year, and I was going to do it through high school, but I loved playing my trombone. I love playing baritone. I still play it a lot. But it all of that it was really easy to me. All the brass instruments, trumpet, tuba, French horn. It was like once I learned trombone, it was like everything else made sense.
Just fall in line.
Yeah, and so and then I got to college.
Where'd you go to college?
Oklahoma City University, and I learned a lot of violin. I spent a lot of time on violin. I spent a lot of time on oboe. For some reason, I gravitated to oboe and really enjoyed playing that, and percussion. As a matter of fact, when I got out of college, most people knew me as a percussionist and not a trombone player. Really? It was crazy. In Oklahoma, when I first got out of college, I was judging all around the state, and I was judging percussion all around the state when I first got out of college. Everybody thought I was a percussionist because I'd played so much with our percussion ensemble in college and everything. So
now, did you go into college for a degree in band?
Yeah.
Or what's that called?
Music education.
Music education, okay.
Yeah, we, I had so many great teachers at North Lamar High School when I came through, a lot of great influences. And Randy Jones, who's there that I'm teaching with, he was my high school band director.
Really?
Yeah, so, and it's always funny. I always tell everybody, it's just amazing how your life becomes full circle from where you start to where you get to. And I always remember in high school trying to please him. It was just, that's just what I felt like I was supposed to do.
Yeah.
And trying to make him proud and make him, see the talent that I had.
Yeah.
I mean, that was just like my drive and my ambition. And our relationship now he's probably one of the most godly men I know.
Yeah.
And so the relationship that him and I have is, I wouldn't trade it for anything.
That's amazing.
It's not only a collegial, but it's also a very spiritual.
That's awesome.
So from that respect, it's incredible to get to come back and teach with him. I taught 13 years in Oklahoma before I came back.
I was going to ask that.
And but anyway, getting back to why I chose music education, he was part of it. Dennis Hotchkiss, who's out at the high school, he was a very big influencing person. I had a real dilemma during my senior year. For lack of a better word, since I was a nerdy person, I had some opportunities to do some aeronautical engineering at a few colleges. There were a few colleges that were wanting me to do some go into like the NROTC and do aeronautical engineering and go that route. And I had some pretty sizable scholarships to go study and pursue that, or to go do music education. And so I was kind of at a crossroads about it. And I remember Mr. Hotchkiss and I sitting around visiting in his classroom about it one day after school. And we'd been studying some Isaac Asimov, who's a sci-fi writer. He's a sci-fi, writes a lot of books. And Mr. Hotchkiss always asks, where could your greatest influence lie? Where are you going to have the biggest life-changing effect on people?
Yeah, humanity,
And we sat around and had that debate, that philosophical debate, and it was pretty clear to me that music education, I would have a greater impact.
Yeah.
And then behind a desk designing airplanes.
True.
It might be more lucrative.
Not that designing airplanes is bad.
No. But, it's just where it was sort of like what Brandon talked about today at church. It's like where your gift is.
Yeah.
And identifying your gift and what you can do with it.
Yeah.
And so I went straight into college to be a music education major, never changed majors, never did any. I mean, that's what I wanted to do.
Did you ever think that you would wind up back at North Lamar?
Oh, that's a great story. My wife would tell you no, because I hated this town when I left. I'm like most seniors.
Yeah.
When they get here, my senior year, as soon as we finished graduation, I counted up the other day. I was telling some seniors about this. I spent about 7 days that summer here in Paris after graduation before I went to college. I had about 3 days off after graduation. Then I flew to Washington, D.C. and met up with a group of students. And we had a concert band that we formed. It was the United States Ambassadors of Music. And we went and spent 21 days in Europe doing 17 concerts.
Wow.
And that was an absolute blast. And then after that, I caught a bus out of London and rode on a bus for about 2 days to Denmark and met my family when I was about 16. We hosted an exchange student from Denmark.
Yeah.
And I call him my brother. He's probably one of my best friends in the whole world.
You still connected with him?
Oh, yeah. I'm his godfather. As a matter of fact, we're probably going to go see him this summer. We see each other almost every year. We find a way, him and I both, to make sure that we see each other every year.
That's
We
amazing.
talk. We probably talk at least once a month. I tell you, technology is great now because back then I used to make videos on VHS.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I did. I kid you not. I'd make videos on VHS and then I would mail them to him.
No way.
And then he would have to. He found an American VHS because VHS is recorded at an American megahertz.
Yes.
But in Europe, the megahertz range is different. So
Yep.
the digital, he had to find an American VHS player
To play it.
Oh
my
and so he
goodness.
bought an American VHS player and he would play them. And I would make like 2-hour videos. We had a video camera, and me and all of our friends, we'd make videos all the time for him. And
Did he ever send any back?
Oh, no, huh?
No.
But I think as far as I know, I think the last time we talked about it, I think he still has all those tapes that I would
That's
send.
funny.
Yeah. But I mean, that's what you had to do. And a phone call would cost us almost like $2 a minute back then.
But you could mail us something.
Yeah. I could mail it to him for like, $10 or something and send a 2-hour tape.
Yeah.
So
That's
it's crazy
the
way.
ultimate pen pal right there. That's
Him and I are super close. It's I call him my brother.
That's
So,
amazing.
But so my senior year, after I did the tour of Europe, I got on a bus and went and saw him and spent almost the rest of the summer with him and his folks, and came back home, had my wisdom teeth pulled, had a few days off, and then went to college. And it's funny because my wife and I, we laugh about it. From that day on, about the only time I ever came back to Paris was for Christmas and Thanksgiving.
It's crazy.
The rest of the time, I hated coming back here. I hated the town. I mean, I was just like your normal high school kid. It's like, oh, I got to get out of here. There's nothing for high school kids here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got to leave.
So, I've talked about that exact subject on this podcast multiple times because I did the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I was home for like 7 days, and then I needed to get out.
Yeah.
But I fell in love with Paris by traveling.
Yes,
And
absolutely. That's me. I was just sharing with somebody the other day that how much I love to travel.
Yeah.
And the person I was sharing this with, he said all of his friends, he's single, and he's in his early 20s, living here in Paris.
Yeah.
And he was talking that all of his friends that he went to college with, they're kind of, he hated to say it, but lazy. They didn't want to go travel. And he said, I was like, man, I said, when I was your age, I would, last minute deals on airlines. Or get in the car and go. But what you said is exactly right. I've played my horn on every continent but Africa and Antarctica. Let me make sure I think that right. Think through that. Yes, I've played my trombone. My trombone has traveled me all over the world.
That's
I've
amazing.
got 2 continents I haven't been on, but all the travel and all the places I've been and all the things I've done, it makes me really love this town that much more.
I agree with that 100%. Okay, so you left college and then you got a job teaching in Oklahoma.
Yeah, I taught my first year. Really great story. One summer in college, I worked for this lady, and she had an arts camp that was going on in Oklahoma City for about elementary school age kids, and she needed some help, and somebody knew her name was Becky Clinton, and somebody knew that I was looking for something to do and knew me and knew her and hooked us up, and I went and worked for Becky at her arts camp for a whole summer, and lo and behold, about 2 years later, her husband, he's the director of the Fine Arts Department in Norman Public Schools, which was the largest school district in Oklahoma, a fabulous school district, and he had a band director that was going on maternity leave and needed somebody to fill in for a year. I was right out of college and I needed a job.
Yeah.
I didn't care if it was 1 year or 10 years. I just needed to start working.
That's awesome.
Just to get my foot in there and to work at Norman Public Schools right there at, where OU is and everything else, a big, huge school district. I had some great mentor teachers that first year. And it was fabulous. It was fabulous. And so I knew it was a 1 year position going into it, but at least I could get my experience in and learn some stuff.
Looks good on the resume for something like that.
Yeah. And John, Dr. Clinton, he fell in love with me, and he said, Jason, he goes, we'll find you a job.
There you go.
he said, I can't give you this job because the lady who's on maternity leave is
coming
coming
back.
And sure enough, he helped me get my second job, and I taught with a gentleman up in Eufaula. I went to Eufaula and taught, and him and I taught for 2 years at Eufaula, and then we taught for 1 year together at Eufaula, and then he left and went to McAllister, and then he had a position open up in band there in McAllister, and he asked me to come and take over his middle school.
That's awesome.
The middle school program for him in McAllister School District, and him and I, we taught together we knew each other for 13 years.
It's amazing.
Longer than my wife. I knew him longer than my wife, and had him and I were really good friends and best friends. And when the opportunity came up to come back home and teach, Rhonda Morris, who I mentioned earlier, she left and retired. And when she retired, she called me and she said, "JC, if you think you want to come back home, you need to call Randy and see if you want to come back home." And I was like, wow. So I called Randy, and he came up and he watched me teach for a day, and we spent a day together. Then I came down and watched him teach for a day, and we just knew. We were like, okay, we need to do this. And Randy had a plan in his head. I originally thought I wanted to come back and take over the middle school program here.
Yeah.
And he wanted me to come to the high school with him.
That's awesome.
And teach. And at the time, I was very apprehensive of that. I was like, I thought I would be a career middle school band director. I love middle school kids.
Mm-hmm.
I love my sixth grade class. As a matter of fact, Carter Witten here at church, he's in my sixth grade class. I love teaching my beginners. I love teaching sixth grade. It's one of my favorite things to teach during the day. And I thought for the longest time of my career that I was going to be a career middle school band director.
Yeah.
That's what I felt my calling was. And Randy asked me to come to the high school, and I was like, oh. I mean, I was teaching high school anyway.
Yeah.
Where I was at, I did the high school jazz band up in McAllister where I was at. I did the marching band for them and was up there all the time. But I really just always had a great connection to middle school students. But Randy asked me to do it, and I was like, there was just something telling me this is what I needed to do.
Yeah.
And
it's amazing.
And so I took a leap of faith in my own career, and I've just been absolutely blessed.
That's amazing. Now, marching band, I have been around you guys. Is it that way in all marching bands? Because, I mean, you guys are intense is a word, family is a word. I mean, there is just so much excitement around marching band.
It is. There is. It's the time that the kids spend together, and everything else, and the work ethic that they learn, the accountability to each other, the camaraderie that just happens, the bonding that happens between the kids and stuff. And the marching band, it's exciting. For us as band directors, okay, you have what I call like the turtlenecks, the collegiate professors, the people that don't actually get in the trenches and teach is what I hate to say that about them, but
right.
They look at marching band, oh, well, marching band's not really, you're not doing music. That's not really music education. That's, you need to just, temper that and just, do what you need to do to get by.
Yeah.
But real music education happens when we get into concert band world.
That's not what I see.
No. Well, for me as a band director, the awesome thing about marching band is that we get to create it. There's, you go to concert season in the spring and we have to play what's on the page, what the score says. And judges, we get judges that set up in an auditorium in the back, and they've got these scores, and they watch the music go by, and they evaluate you on how well you play it compared to what's on the page.
Right.
Okay, marching band, there is no score. We get to create that. They don't get pictures of what we're supposed to be making out there on the field. We get to create that. And so as band directors, I mean, aren't we teaching art?
Yes.
And creativity. And so for us as band directors, to me, that's the wonderful time, because there's no restrictions. We're only limited by our own imagination.
Ugh, love that.
And so, it's sometimes you have to corral things back in.
Mm-hmm.
But so many times you get to, it's funny. We had a gentleman who taught with us. His name was Roderick Boyce. He student taught with us and then taught with us. And Roderick's just an incredibly gifted young man. He's teaching now down at Community High School. And Roderick and I would sit around, and I would come up with these ideas. And I'd be like, okay, Roderick, this is what I want to do. I want to get wireless mics and put it on instruments, and then I want to run that signal through synthesizers and change it or add sound to it so that it sounds like something else, and then we'll pipe it through the system and we'll create solos. And let's think about, okay, how can we use this concept?
Yeah,
and
outside of the box.
Yeah, creating. And Roderick and I, we never could quite figure out how to make it reliable and how to make it consistent. And then lo and behold, about a year or two later, we start seeing that idea pop up there's another world called like Drum Corps. It's Drum Corps International. And it's like college, it's marching band, but for high school and college students, and they do it during the summer, and that's all they do. It's like AAU ball for marching band.
Okay.
Summer league ball, club ball, whatever you want to call it. So these kids, they're some of the most gifted kids in America, and they get together and they get on buses and travel around the country and practice, and they put these shows on that are phenomenal. The precision, the musicality, and all of a sudden we start seeing the same idea start popping up, and I look at Roderick and I go, man, why go? We had the idea, listen, and so we're all the time, we marching band just frees us up creativity wise to do just about anything that we can kind of think of.
That's awesome.
And
That's awesome.
well, within budget too.
Yeah.
There's a lot of schools, man, we look around,
endless budget.
Oh yeah. And so, but it's always funny because we always have a saying with us and our staff here at North March, you still have to march and you still have to play.
Yeah.
You can put all of the stuff out on the field that you want to, what they call props, and you can put all that stuff out there on the field and you can come up with all of it. But at the end of the day, you still got to teach the kids how to march and how to play.
Yep.
So
makes sense.
Anyway, sorry.
All right, so you spent your first paycheck on golf clubs.
Absolutely.
And you are already
Thank you to I want to hold on, shout out. Thank you to my wife. She let me buy a new set of golf clubs for Christmas. I haven't got them yet. I'm still.
Christmas?
Yeah, this Christmas. I just got a new set, so I went over and got fitted for them and everything else. And I thought he was going to call me yesterday and that they were going to be in because I was in Dallas yesterday. And I was like, oh, they're still not in.
No, it's not in.
Yeah.
So you jumped back into the golf realm.
Yeah.
And then did you dive in deep or?
Yeah. I play as much as I absolutely can.
Because I've seen, in addition to traveling a lot, you've traveled and played in different countries and played golf, right?
I've played golf around the world too.
Because I've seen pictures of you.
And probably the thing, like in the golfing world, that most people know me about is that I'm a huge advocate and I'm a sponge for the rules of golf. I do a lot of golf officiating. I officiate golf tournaments, and I've shout out to myself. I just recently in November, the Texas Golf Association, which is the second largest golf association in the United States, only to the United States Golf Association. I was recently named to the board of directors for the Texas Golf Association.
Wow.
So
that's impressive.
No, I'm like the youngest person on the board.
Really?
It's like me. I always laugh about it because even in the rules world, it's always me and a bunch of old guys. And so I've left my whole life as always. My wife says, she says, you're like a 70-year-old in a 40-year-old's body. She said, you act just like a 70-year-old. And that most of the people that I get along with and I love hanging out with are my parents' age.
That's awesome.
It's a whole generation older is where and so I do a ton of golf officiating for the Texas Golf Association, the United States Golf Association, the American Junior Golf Association. I've done several NCAA tournaments. And I love the rules of golf. I love being out and watching people play golf. I love promoting the game of golf. It's such a wonderful game. And I've been involved with the Texas Golf Association for just over 10 years. Well, since I moved back. I moved, just so everybody knows, I moved back here about 10 years ago. And I've been here in Paris now for 10 years. And since I moved back, I started volunteering and helping the United States Golf Association and the Texas Golf Association. And so I just recently got named to the board of directors, which is super exciting.
Did you geek out a little bit on that first meeting?
I haven't had our first meeting.
You haven't had it yet? Okay.
No, our first meeting is coming up in February. It said the 1st of February is our first board of directors meeting.
Do you plan on geeking out a little bit?
I think so. I know almost everybody who's on the board already.
Okay.
Because I've worked with them in some capacity or something. And so it's down in Houston. And it's your normal board of directors. We stay at some really nice hotel. We'll eat some dinner all together. And I mean, it's a big deal. People, the United States Golf Association, everybody knows it because they're the governing body of the rules of golf for PGA and for, the U.S. Open is run by the U.S. Golf Association. And so it's a huge organization, the United States Golf Association. And to be involved in the Texas Golf Association, which is the second largest, the second most members, and all the tournaments that we do and everything else, and to be asked to be on that board of directors, for me it's
exciting.
Yeah. Well, it's just going to provide me more opportunities to give back to the game of golf.
That's awesome.
Which is what I love. I love promoting the game of golf. I love seeing people play. And everybody always say, "Oh, Jason, I don't want to go play with you. You're like really good." And I'm like, "Well, that's in perspective,
Yeah.
If you compare me to, Bruce Koepka or Tiger Woods, I suck." But, but that's not what it's about. The game of golf is about going out and being with people outside and the camaraderie. And I'm a big trash talker. I'm like the Steph Curry of golf. you come out on the golf course, now I'm, if somebody's new and they're starting out, everybody goes, "Oh yeah. I mean, I'm going to help you." And help is kind of a relative term because it's crazy. I think a lot of people go out on the golf course, and the last thing you want is somebody telling you how to play.
Right.
Just hit the ball.
Yeah.
Just hit the ball and let's go.
In the right direction.
Yeah. And if it only goes a few feet, great. Let's hit it again.
Yep.
Keep going.
You only get better by practice.
And go play. And so I'm not like one of those people that's out there trying to coach people around the course, because that just annoys me. I'm there to be with you as a person, not to teach you how to play golf.
Yep.
And that's what I value. I want to hear your stories while we're out on the golf course.
Yeah.
I want to see you. It's funny. I was trying to think of it while I was saying this. I just read a book the other day, and it was about a guy, and he described that one way how he was interviewing CEOs for his company, and the two things that he would do is he would either take them out and play golf with them if they were like a finalist for it, or he would take them to a restaurant. And it was a restaurant that he had set up where the waiters and waitresses would purposely do things wrong during the meal.
Interesting.
And he was describing how he could, like in a finalist setting for CEOs of his company, he would use those two situations to determine who he wanted in his company, all because he got to know the people.
That's fascinating.
And you think about it in terms, especially waiters and waitresses, like when they screw up, he would evaluate how they handled a waiter or waitress like messing up the order or doing something wrong, and the interaction between that person and a waiter or waitress and how they treat
tells you a lot.
And the same thing's true on the golf course. I can tell you the value of a person by the way they play golf. I watch them play golf and see what they do and how they talk, and and if I'll be honest, I personally hate gambling. I can't stand it. I don't do it. But out on the golf course, I don't mind putting a little bit of money on the line.
Yeah.
And for me, a little bit of money is like $1.
Yeah.
Anything over $1, and I start going, I don't know if I want to do this or not. But $1, I'm like, okay, I'll play you for $1 a hole all day long. I don't care who you are. It's fine. I don't mind losing it. But it puts a little skin in the game so that you have a little bit of anxiety.
Yeah.
And you do that, and you can actually start seeing the quality, the values that people have, because it's only $1, but it's amazing what lengths some people will go to. Well, are they willing to cheat? Okay, well, that tells you something about them. Are they willing to play by the rules and accept defeat? Well, that tells you something about them. And how do they win? Well, that tells you something about them.
Yep.
And so that's sorry.
It's amazing. No, that's great. That's great. I've never been really introduced to golf.
Anytime you want to go, you just call me and tell me.
I've played in a driving. I've been to a driving range.
Yeah.
I've been to Top Golf once.
Absolutely.
But I've never been to an actual proper golf course and played through a golf course. Now I've taken pictures of Glow Golf. Was a really cool experience for a photographer to take pictures of, because you open the exposure really long and you get the trails of the golf ball flying.
That is cool.
It's a really cool photography moment, but I've never actually played on a course.
You gotta go.
My friend Jay Ryan, who's been on this podcast.
Oh, Jay has been?
Mm-hmm.
I play with Jay all the time.
He's good.
Yeah, he's really good.
he talks
Tell him
about
I said
it.
that too.
Okay, he'll love that. He's tried to get me out on the golf course multiple times.
As a matter of
but-
fact, during Christmas, we probably played 3 or 4 times together during
and
Christmas.
his dad's really good too, right?
Sean's amazing. Sean's really good. Sean's been at many tournaments. Many of the tournaments I've officiated, Sean's been at.
Awesome.
I would definitely say in the state of Texas, in his age bracket, he's definitely one of the top level golfers in the state of Texas.
Awesome.
Amateur. Now, a lot of the things I deal with are amateur golfers.
Right.
I'm not dealing with the pro side of it.
Right.
And I've officiated a couple of pro events, and I'm telling you, that's just stressful. It's like
Yeah.
another level of stress because those are people out there, that's their living. And you're sitting there and a decision or, that you make as an official could be the determining factor on if they put food on their table or not.
Right.
And that's
Scary.
yeah, it was. And I think I would adjust to it if I have done it more, but almost all the events I do are always dealing with amateur golf. And to me, it's the purest form. It's like the virgin version of golf.
Yeah.
Because you're playing for more than money. You're playing for bragging rights.
Right.
Because you can't, as an amateur, if you win so much money, then you're considered a professional. So they have to keep the money down, and the money's out of it. It's more about, okay, who's the best golfer? Let's just go find out who the best golfer is. It's not, and so that's exciting to me.
That is exciting. I love that. So have you ever taught golf?
A little bit. I mean, people will ask me at times to watch them swing and stuff because the amount of golf courses I've been on and the number of people I've seen swing and everything else. And, I also kind of think a lot of people like to ask me to help them because I am a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have, and I'll tell you, I sometimes have mixed emotions about it because I enjoy being out on the golf course and not being a teacher.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to the rules, I mean, I'll sit and talk to anybody about the rules of golf,
Right.
and educate them on what the rules of golf are and what to do. It's always funny. The buddies I play with all the time, they'll ask, well, Jason, what should I do in this situation with the rules? And I usually don't bring the rules of golf when I play with my buddies because they don't play by the rules. So there's no point in like, dude, that's a 2-stroke penalty. What you just did. Make sure you add 2. Who wants? I'm not going to be that guy. I don't want to.
Nobody wants.
I'm not out there for that. So, they'll ask me and and I'll share with them, well, the rule is this is what you're supposed to do.
Right.
And then they all look at me and they go, okay. And then they do whatever they're going to do anyway. So, and we always talk about it as rules officials that when we get home and we're playing with our friends, don't bring the rules.
Yeah.
Don't be that guy.
Say that for the competition.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, but as far as like teaching people how to play the game and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I've done it, and I'll do it when people ask because I love being asked to do things. When people ask me to do that, to me is like one of the highest honors you can do to somebody is to ask them for help. Whenever you go to them or you ask them to do something for you, to me that means that you value that person, you value their skill, you value them, and so when someone asks me, I feel very deeply obligated to help them. It doesn't matter what my personal feelings are.
Yeah.
If they ask me to do something, they valued me enough. The least I can do is to give them my full attention.
That's awesome.
And so I've done it. I don't go out and promote doing it because that's not what I enjoy about the game.
Yes,
I
yeah.
enjoy just being outside and hitting golf balls and being with people and trash talking. I love to trash talk on the golf course, especially when I get around golfers. We get a little bit of money in the game or something. My trash talking skills are pretty high.
What I like about what you've got going on is like you have kind of the best of both worlds in the concept of like you are passionate about what you do for a living.
Yeah.
But you also have a hobby that you are passionate about.
Yeah.
So for me, I am passionate about what I do for a living. And it's my hobby that I do on the side.
Yeah. Oh, you got to find something else. You got to divert yourself. You got to get away. You have to.
I think I do though, but in the sense of like I get creative with what. So I like taking astrophotography. Now that doesn't make me any money.
No.
I can't do that for a living, but I can still use the same things that I do for a living.
The skills.
The same skills as a hobby.
Yeah, that's cool. See, I didn't know that about you. I didn't know that you did astrophotography.
Yeah, I've gone out with Tony a few times. Tony Corso takes a lot of astrophotography. He loves doing that kind of stuff. I'm not quite as into it as he is. He'll look at moon patterns and
figure out the right time.
Figure out the perfect time. I kind of tag along with him a little bit.
but that's what a hobby is when you find other people with the same interests.
Exactly.
And you hang out with them. And it's about hanging out and seeing what they do and how they do things and sharing it and experiencing it together.
But it's awesome that you're so passionate in both worlds.
Yeah. It's fun. It's fun. I don't know. My wife, I recently, here's a great story. We were talking about sharing stories. I was officiating the Texas Amateur back in June at Dallas Athletic Club, and on Friday, it's a 4-day tournament, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. On Friday, I'm racing across the golf course. We had some spectators in the wrong place, and they'd already been told. I'd heard on the radio another official had told them where they were supposed to be, and we always ask our spectators to stay on the cart paths, not to be out in the course area. We don't have ropes up like everything else, but at the Texas Amateur, it's a big, huge tournament. We 140 competitors. They've gone through qualifying rounds to get there. We have a ton of spectators out at it, and we had these spectators that kept going out onto the course and hanging out with the players on the course while they're playing, like walking along with them. And we don't allow that. And so we had an official tell them. They didn't listen to him. So I'm racing across the golf course because I can see them from where I'm at, that they're back out being a distraction to some of the other players. And I come over this hill, and unbeknownst to me, there's a bunker on the other side of this hill.
Oh, I know where the story's going.
And I'm going full bore in that golf cart, and I crashed that golf cart into the bunker. It didn't hurt the golf cart. And as soon as the golf cart lands, it lands like sideways in the bunker. I come over the hill. I mean, airborne. I'm airborne in the golf cart. Crash the bunker. And I just jump right out of the golf cart and start walking to them. And I go, ladies and gentlemen, everybody, I said, you were just told a few holes ago to be on the cart path. I said, would you please get back on the cart path? And everybody's just turned in shock and horror of what they just saw. They just saw a golf cart fly over a bunker and crash, and then this guy just walk out like nothing at all happened. You see this whole story play out.
That's so funny.
And my stuff that was in the golf cart with me is strode everywhere in the golf cart. And so I'm sitting there telling them and explaining to them this. I was like, please, will y'all please just get back on the cart path? That's where we want our spectators to be. Right. I said, while you're walking back over the cart path, will you help me get my golf cart out of the bunker? And they all just start laughing at that point. So we gather all my stuff up and we get the golf cart out of the bunker. Golf cart's fine, bunker's fine, rake it up and everything else. And about 30 or 45 minutes later, my left wrist starts hurting. And I'm like, okay, well, whatever. I get back to the hotel that night. I put some ice on it. I think it's fine. And it turns out finally, by about the 1st of September, Dr. Green and Dr. De La Garza finally helped me figure out that I broke my scaphoid bone.
Oh, no.
And so I had to have surgery put on it. So I'm talking middle of June, and we're talking it takes us all the way until September. And part of the reason why is because I was incredibly reluctant to go see a doctor, because I don't go see doctors, but that's a whole nother story. So we finally put my left hand, they put a screw into the scaphoid bone, put me in a cast, and it's not until almost Thanksgiving that Dr. De La Garza finally releases me
to play.
Yeah, or to take the cast off.
Oh.
He won't take he puts a cast on, then he puts another cast on, then he puts another cast on, and the whole time is to basically to keep me from playing golf, because he knows as soon as he takes the cast off,
you're going.
Yeah, and I tried to play golf with a broken scaphoid bone. Like in this time from June, from when I broke it until September, I tried to play like 3 or 4 times, and I'm out there and I'm playing some of the best golf I've ever played, but I'm in tears because it hurts so bad.
Oh man!
And I mean, I'm taking anti-inflammatories. I'm trying to do everything I can, and I'm just like going, well, it's just sprained. I just need to get through. It's just sprained. I just need to get through it.
Nope.
No. And my wife, the whole time, what is my wife saying?
Go see a doctor.
Yeah, the whole time.
Yeah.
She's like, you're stupid.
As wives do.
Yes. Yeah. And so I finally got released back in right around Thanksgiving. It's finally when I got released to start playing golf again. So
I have one last question.
Man, we haven't even scratched the surface. I got 100 more stories.
Oh my goodness. Maybe we'll have a follow-up.
Oh dear.
And I think I know the answer to this question, but I ask most all my guests, so I just want to ask it anyway.
Yeah.
What is your favorite place in all of Paris, Texas to go?
Oh.
And it can be anything.
Man. I mean, it's got to be the golf course. It's
That's
got to be
what
the
I
country
thought.
club. Yeah. I mean, if it's funny. We had the storm of the decade the other day. I think I put a post out there about it. You know, everybody got scared. Schools were letting out early. Everything else. You know, storm of the decade. And I kept telling all the kids at school that I said, "It's a storm of the decade. It's coming in." And finally, after I said it about the 10th time, finally somebody realized what I was saying, because they're like, "Well, Mr. Smith, aren't we only 10 days into the decade?" And I go, "Yeah." The whole point of that being, you know, is how we get scared and wrapped up into the storm of the decade, or these storms. Sometimes we get caught up into it. All the schools let out early, and I totally get that. The worst thing that could happen is you got a kid getting on and off a bus and it's hailing on them.
Yeah.
Who I no one wants to wants to have that happen. So if we can prevent that from happening, we absolutely must keep that from happening. But I was thankful that they let school out early, because I got 9 holes of golf in.
There you go.
And I took pictures of it, storm of the decade, of me
playing golf.
I felt like the priest from Caddyshack. You know, I was like waiting for the lightning strike to come in.
That's
but
funny.
you know, I mean, that's just it for me. I enjoy being outside. It provides me an opportunity to be outside. Exercise, camaraderie. You know, I can always find somebody to play with.
Yeah.
And I hate playing golf by myself. I don't enjoy that. I go out and work on my game, like go to the driving range or putting range. I don't mind doing that by myself. But as far as like playing golf, to me, that's kind of anti-golf if you play by yourself. You know,
Awesome.
it's different if you're practicing. I get practicing needs to be done. But if I'm going to go play, I want to be with people.
Yeah.
You know, Dr. Kilgore's great. He's awesome. Dr. Kilgore, we've played many times together. And, you know, it's just that camaraderie and everything. And so, yeah, I tell you, I think the airport, a lot of people don't get it. But to me, I have a good friend of mine. He enjoys it also. Just go out to the airport and sit. I love watching planes take off and land. I think that's great. I think there's some places out at Pat Mays Lake. My wife and I sometimes we'll just go.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, you can just park in that little area right before the dam.
Yep.
At Pat Mays Lake. I mean, take a sack lunch.
Yep. We've shot a church video right there in that spot.
Yeah. I mean, it's just a beautiful
gorgeous.
spot just to sit and hang out. So here in Paris, I mean, there's a lot of Lake Crook, the pier at Lake Crook is just
gorgeous.
Another cool place just to go and sit and hang out. I don't know. There's so many places that I think are just really cool. And I mean, how can you not just like go and look at the gates at the Veterans Memorial?
Oh, or just watch people come and go there.
Yeah. And then the trail itself. My
Gorgeous.
wife is a huge archer.
So what you're saying, there's too many to choose.
Well, but I mean, there's a lot of places I like to go. But if I only have to choose one, yeah, mine's probably going to be
Still be at the golf course.
Still be at the
That's
golf
awesome.
course. I tell my wife all the time. I said, when I die, it's going to be easy. Just cremate me and spread my ashes at the golf course. I don't know, pick one. Pick any golf course. I don't care.
Multiples.
Multiples.
A little bit here, a little bit there.
I don't need a gravesite. I don't need a gravestone. Just cremate me and
that's awesome.
Throw me out. Let it be done.
Awesome.
I mean, but anyway.
Well, thank you so much for being on my podcast.
Man, it's awesome. God
is
bless.
great.
There's like so many more things we need to talk about.
We need
to do a follow-up.
Let's do a follow-up.
Anytime you want to.
I've always wanted to do multiple follow-ups, and I've only done one.
Yeah. Well, we didn't even get to half the stuff I could share with you about. And if we need to do it about Paris, Texas, the history of Paris, Texas, we should have done that. The history of Paris, Texas. My knowledge of the history. I'm a huge advocate of the history of Paris, Texas.
All right.
I mean, like the downtown area, how like the brown signs, what the brown signs mean.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know what the brown signs mean. And then the history of the fires that have gone through and the tunnel systems. Have you investigated the tunnels?
I've had a few podcast people ask about them, and I've even had a few people who are history buffs.
There's a couple of websites you can go to, and you can see
pictures of them.
Of what people have done and what people have discovered. You know, because my dad's side of the family, we've traced my dad's side of the family back here. My dad's mom, she lived at where my dad grew up, is where the old Sonic, where Paris Sheet Metal is?
Yeah.
And the old Sonic that was right there on Main Street?
Yep.
That's where he grew up, and she owned most of the land from there all the way out to Campbell Soup at one time.
Wow.
My family did. So on my dad's side of the family.
Deal. We'll have a Paris, Texas history. I love history stuff.
Oh, my gosh. And Paris, like Mcdonald. You know the Mcdonald Observatory?
No.
That the University of Texas owns?
No.
Okay, oh my gosh, this is like one of the greatest Paris, Texas stories ever. The Mcdonald Observatory,
Okay.
that the University of Texas owned, which is like one of the largest observatories in the United States. The biggest one's in Hawaii.
Oh, yeah. I've seen that one.
Yeah, okay. Well, in the continental United States is the Mcdonald Observatory. That was money given by a guy from Paris, Texas. And I forgot his first name, but his last name is McDonald. He was here in Paris. And he also, at the time, gave one of the largest contributions to the University of Texas ever by any one person. If you like compare money, or like what a dollar is worth back then to a dollar now. It's the guy was from Paris, Texas, and the Mcdonald Observatory. Check it out. Look it up
That's
on history.
awesome.
And geez, we've also had like a lot of military people. Of course, everybody knows the cool stuff like Gene Stalin, and people like that. But there's a lot of hidden history of Paris that I'm a huge fanatic about, that I love to brag about.
Done. We will schedule a history podcast.
Yes, please do. That'll be awesome.
Have to try to. Maybe we can bring a couple people on it, and then have like a 2 or 3 of us that are just going back and forth on history, nerding out on history.
Paris, Texas history.
Done.
I tell you. Oh, sorry. And one of the other great stories, it's not a great story. It's a very tragic story. Is the last public lynching in the state of Texas was done here in Paris.
I didn't know that.
It's a very, very, very tragic story. That they sent a posse basically to Arkansas to bring the guy back. He supposedly it was the last public lynching in Paris. So sorry, now we're like ending on like a down note.
No,
I mean check it out sometime. Last public, it made the Chicago papers, made the New York papers, and everything else. And if the guy did what he was accused of doing, then yeah.
Yeah.
I probably would have been right there with the mob. And basically, the governor of Texas told the sheriff of Lamar County that he needed to stand this mob down and not let them do what they were doing. Wow. And the sheriff basically told the governor, then you come and do that, because I'm not standing I can't stand in their way. It's an incredibly documented story about Paris, Texas. And I don't know, there's a lot of neat history things about this town and everything else and especially like right around the turn of the century. Yeah. I love the turn of the century from like about 1900 to about 1920, right around the fires. Yeah. And a lot of people don't realize there were 2 fires. A lot of people know of one. I didn't know that. Yeah, but the 2 fires, and just what Paris was, especially before the fires. You had both railroads, and you had a river port.
Yep, a river port. A lot of people don't know that we had a river port. I did know that too.
Yeah, into the Red River. Mm-hmm. But then you also got to think the Red River was different then, because the dam at Texoma wasn't built. Okay. And so the river's at a different level and had a different navigational ability. Flowed more, yeah. That's awesome. So anyway, sorry. I am
excited for this potential podcast. I will start lining it up. I even have some ideas. I'm not going to tell everybody right now, but I have some ideas how to make it extra special.
That would be cool. And hopefully I'll learn something, because I love learning stuff about our town. Yeah. And about our community.
Done.
People from here. I mean, that's the other cool thing, is all the people that have come from here. Yeah. And things that they've done either while they were here and what they've gone on to do.
Yeah, I love it. Love it. Done.
All right, cool.
Deal. Thank you for being on the podcast.
Awesome. Thank you for asking me. This is awesome. I love it.
Okay, I want to give one more big shout out to Southern Pro Landscaping and Design. If you guys have any landscaping needs, give them a check out. Until next week. See you guys.